Around 10 hours ago, the BBC reported that the Metropolitan Police expressed regret over arresting 6 anti-monarchy protesters over the Coronation weekend. However, just about 5-10 minutes ago, the Met chief defended officers over the arrests over the Coronation weekend, again, as reported by the BBC. And many of you have asked me to do an overview of this situation, and so I thought I would do an unbiased, balanced video, also referring to the law, because it's not quite as straightforward as it might seem. It rarely is. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the channel. So many of you have sent me requests to talk about these arrests, so I thought I would do just that, referencing both the BBC articles and the law in question, because there is also an update from the Met Police as to what they did, why they did it, and of course I will refer to the law in this video as well. So moving first of all to the BBC articles, the first one here from about 10 hours ago or so says that the Met expresses regret over arresting 6 anti-monarchy protesters. And of course Graham Smith from the Republic campaign, if you weren't aware, was arrested among others, and he said that he was among the group and has now received a personal apology from police officers, but said that he didn't accept the apology and is going to take legal action. Now, for those of you that don't know, if you're wrongfully arrested, then you can usually seek compensation, for which you should, of course, seek formal legal advice. The Met did confirm, according to the BBC, that it had used new controversial law, which I'll come back to in a moment, to detain said group. Now, this was, as it shows here, around 10 hours ago. This was refreshed not too long ago. The second article, however, which has not been released for very long, I haven't refreshed this for a few minutes, so that's probably a few minutes older than 4 minutes, but just for some time reference. Met Chief Mark Rowley defends officers over the Coronation arrests. Now, before anybody jumps to conclusions, I will go through what the Met says and what the law is, and then open this up to discussion, comment in the box below, all being very polite and respectful, of course. So Sir Rowley said it was unfortunate those arrested could not protest, but he supported the officers' actions. He said there'd been a concerning threat to the coronation, bearing in mind this is for many a once-in-a-lifetime event and certainly is going to be a nationwide significant event nonetheless, whether you support it or not. And by that, I mean, regardless of whether you support the monarchy or not, there were going to be a significant volume of people. Can we say volume of people? Number of people there. I suppose volume, if they're all contained within one space, they form a volume. Anyway, a large number of people in one space at one time is a security nightmare for anybody that is policing this, no pun intended, and certainly for the security services keeping watch. Now, we don't know whether or not these security services had alerted the police to potential problems, not just as protests, but potentially very much worse than that. Now, as members of the public, we won't know. We probably won't be told any of the specifics of any such threats. I don't know that any exist, but on the balance of probabilities, to be the voice of reason here, it is likely that there would have been a significant number of threats that the security services and every other department were dealing with all at once. And the only front that you see is the visible police. Now, this is not me defending police here. This is me giving you an objective, very reasonable, balanced approach to a very real situation. As I said, whether you support the monarchy or not, whether you like it or not, this was a large event for a large number of people, and a lot of people were there. So either way you look at it, this was a serious security concern, not just for the police, but for everybody else. So the police may have been acting on intelligence that we won't be told about. But either way, the report here from Sir Rowley, Chief of the Met, is saying that there had been a concerning threat to the coronation. People purporting to be stewards had white paint that they wanted to throw to disrupt the procession. It might be as simple as that. It might not be as simple as that. There might be more to it than that. I've been a little bit cynical and a bit of a realist at the same time. I think there's probably a lot more to it than that. There may have been a threat that there was going to be white paint thrown and cause disruption and embarrassment, but it may well have been more serious than that. We don't know. We won't know. He also said that on the day before the King's coronation, the Met had growing concerns that protesters would use alarms and possible lock-on devices, loud hailers, and vandalize monuments during the procession. Now, this was another thing that I picked up on Twitter, and there's various discussions and there's various community threads and things like that. Now, apparently there were some people in the crowds handing out these alarms to assist people, but potentially I can see that they might have been used to startle the horses, which is what some of the people said in the Twitter thread. Now, again, we don't really know the full extent of that. This is simply what has been said by the chief of the Met, and going on to say that clearly this would not only have been unlawful, but also extremely dangerous, because obviously if it did startle even one or two of the horses, there could have been a stampede of all the horses. Yes, the horses are trained to not react to such loud noises, but at the end of the day, they are animals, and they might well do if there are enough of these alarms going off to cause such a disruption. Again, this is not me saying that this is definitely what was going to happen, but if that is what was going to happen, then you could understand why the police might want to curb that possibility. A group, it goes on, of 6 anti-monarchy protesters, including the chief executive of the anti-monarchy group Republic, Graham Smith, was arrested on Coronation Day under the controversial new law, the Public Order Act 2023. I'll come back to that in a moment. So they were held for almost 16 hours, later bailed and told on Monday that no further action will be taken against them. So it is entirely possible that the intent of arrest was simply to remove them from the situation, prevent anything from happening, just in case it did, under this new law. In total, this is where it gets a little bit out of the single line headline, I call it, where many people won't be aware of the full details, but 64 people were arrested in London during the coronation, of whom 52 were arrested in relation to concerns to disrupt the event, and 4 have been charged. So where they've been charged, I would say that there is sufficient evidence to say that they were going to do such a thing. But there is also a concern that recent changes to the Public Order Act, very close by the coronation, made it illegal to prepare a lock-on when a person attaches themselves to an object so they cannot be removed. Now, this is something that a lot of people won't understand. A lock-on device is very often and typically a long cylindrical device that protesters will put their hands inside. They will either handcuff themselves or hold on to something, and one way or another, they are inside a device which requires several different tools to cut through to free them and remove them from railings, monuments, or any other kind of structure. And these are often designed so they've got several layers, be it steel, be it concrete, because obviously with even an angle grinder or things like this need different types of blades and tools to cut through such materials. And cutting through steel will damage one that's designed for concrete and vice versa. And these devices very often have several different layers to make it more difficult to cut through and remove them. So with that in mind, the Public Order Act of 2023 was amended to create offences for lock-on devices or being equipped for locking on. And this is one of the sections that some of these arrests have been made under. So if we click through into that section, the offence of being equipped for locking on, a person commits an offence if they have an object with them in place other than a dwelling, with the intention that it may be used in the course of or in connection with the commission or by any person of an offence under section 1.1, which is the offence of locking on. So going equipped, a bit like going equipped to commit burglary. If you go out with tools, even screwdrivers and things like that, that could be used to commit burglary, you're going equipped to commit burglary. So here, similarly, going equipped for locking on, you just have equipment with you that could be used for locking on. Under Section 1, the offence of locking on, a person commits an offence if they attach themselves to another person, an object or land, and things like that. So this is the offence of locking on. Now, the update from the Met Police provides, and again, this is an objective overview of what's happened, and I'm not encouraging you to think one thing or another, but this is an overview of what happened. The update from the Met Police said that 52 of these arrests of the 64 related to concerns that people going to disrupt the event, and arrest included to prevent a breach of the peace, conspiracy to cause public nuisance, and others including possession of offensive weapons, drugs offences, and in breaches of other orders. And so there was a significant number of arrests for a significant number of things. And even down here, police searched a vehicle as well as a large number of placards found, which they had reasonable grounds to believe that could be used as a lock-on device. Taking into account the information they had, the overall concern regarding security, 6 people were arrested on suspicion of going equipped for locking on, contrary to this new act, which is fairly controversial by all accounts. One man also arrested for possession of a knife or pointed article back in the Section 139 of the Criminal Justice Act 1988. It was not clear at the time that at least one of the group stopped had been engaging with the police protest liaison team. Protest liaison team were not the arresting officers, nor were they present. The investigation team have now fully examined the items seized and reviewed the full circumstances of the arrest. Those arrested stated that the items would be used to secure their placards, and investigation has been unable to prove intent to use them to lock on and disrupt the event. So ultimately, there was a suspicion that they were using or going equipped to use these items, and therefore arrests were made. And so if a police officer has a reasonable suspicion that someone is going to commit an offence, such as one of these, this is why some of these arrests have been made. However, it goes on to say, because they've been unable to prove intent that they were going to use these devices to lock on and disrupt the event, this evening all 6 have had their bail cancelled, no further action will be taken, and they regret that 6 people arrested were unable to join the wider group for protesters, and so on, etc. Now, the point here is, the argument and the question and the complaint is, were they wrongfully arrested? Now, if someone is wrongfully arrested, they are usually entitled to some form of compensation, provided that it can be shown that the police have not acted reasonably within lawful authority and showing reasonable suspicion and grounds for the arrest in the first place. Now, given the exceptional circumstances of the event, of the coronation, as I say, whether you support it or not, I know I did a poll. I will check just how many people voted on that poll, but it was a significant number of people. And we ended up with a 52, by my memory, 52 to 48 result on that poll out of 29,000 votes. Only 52 to 48 in favour of supporting the king. So I do understand that roughly half of you guys watching do not support the monarchy, whether you're in the UK or otherwise. It doesn't really matter. This was a general poll for everybody to vote on. But whether you support the monarchy or not, it was a significant event with a lot of people there. And causing a disruption like that is obviously going to not only cause the disruption and the protest of that nature, but potentially, well, quite realistically, take attention and resources away from protecting the people, not just the monarchy and people of importance, but the whole of the congregation there. Everybody that was at that event relied upon the police and the security services for their safety. So was it proportionate and was it reasonable? Did they act reasonably? This is going to be a question which is doubtless going to go to some level of investigation as to what intelligence they acted on, whether the assessment of the information they had at hand, whether the devices and whether what they looked at the time gave them reasonable grounds to arrest under this new legislation. I suspect that the conclusion is going to be that there was reasonable grounds to arrest them based on what they saw and based on the heightened importance, security risks at the time, and the speed within which they had to make a decision to arrest, to remove them from the equation, so to speak, to prevent any disruption and to prevent any further risk to the overall crowd of people. So I suspect, at least, that any investigation is going to conclude that there was reasonable grounds, obviously depending on what it was they saw, that there was reasonable grounds to arrest for suspicion of going equipped under this new law. Now, there's questions left better to those very much more senior than me in the criminal world of the bar as to whether that is right and even whether the legislation is right. Those questions remain to be answered, because at the moment, however you look at it, it is a severe curtailment of the right to protest, even at an event such as this. So the Met acknowledges that the right to protest has been curtailed in that situation over the weekend. But ultimately, my view is that they will conclude, any investigation will conclude that they had a reasonable ground to suspect that they were going equipped to commit this offence, and therefore it will be seen to be reasonable. So with that in mind, I hope that has given you a balanced overview. I'm not for or against here. I am providing the information and what I think will happen and what the law is and why this has happened. And of course, you can leave me your thoughts and your comments below. And please do remember to like this video and subscribe. I very much appreciate you subscribing. I'm just about to hit 300,000 subscribers. I'm very grateful to you all for doing that and for watching. And so please do leave me your comments below. And I thank you all very much for watching.